Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Chilltown Hoops. I'm your host, Jermaine. The youngsters call me OG. My friends call me J-Dub. Let's get to it. So, in the 75-year history of the NBA, the best players to ever play have been big guys. They've won more than half the league MVPs, the Defensive Player of the Year. They've been the most effective and the most efficient. They've been on the most championship teams. They've been on the most dynasties. With the exception of the Bulls, that was a different animal. But other than that, the best teams that the NBA has ever seen have been anchored by the big guy. But then we had a shift. And it started in around 2005 with the 8 seconds or less offense with the Phoenix Suns, where they sped the game up, right? They sped the game up, and in the process of them speeding up the game, they shot the long ball a lot, right? They got a lot of stuff in transition, and when they slowed the game down, it was a lot of pick and pop. And they were moving a little further away from the basket. As good as Amari Stoudemire was in transition, they were moving a little bit further away from the basket. People didn't really talk about it as much, but they were. And not only were they moving further away from the basket, they were getting criticized for being a jump shooting team, and you can't win that way. Even though I think they went to the Western Conference Championship 3 times in 5 years or something like that. So then enter Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. So these guys show up, and now this is basketball. 8 seconds or less, that was the future of basketball, right? That was the future of basketball, but people didn't want to see it. And they scoffed at it. But then Klay Thompson and Steph Curry show up, and that's the future of basketball. This is what basketball is going to be over the next 10 to 15 years. This is the winning formula. Well, what they did in the process of doing that was they tricked the big guy. They tricked the big guy into believing, well, you got to play further away from the basket too. In order for you to thrive in this league, you got to shoot the long ball. In order for you to thrive in this league, you got to defend 22 feet away from the basket. When in reality, no, you don't. No, you didn't. Because the big man, he was the most effective on offense when he played on the box, when he played in the mid-post, and when he played in the mid-range. Now, the big guy playing on the three-point line, the big guy stopping, popping in transition, shooting the three, that's an advantage to the smaller guy. When you get guys like Anthony Davis, for example, with what I'm seeing with this Laker team, Anthony Davis over the last 3 games is 35 and 17. And you know why he's 35 and 17? He's 35 and 17 because he's shot 3 threes over the last 3 games. Anthony Davis's game is on the box, it's in the mid-post, and it's in the mid-range. And what else has Anthony Davis been doing? Anthony Davis has been cleaning glass. He's been protecting the rim. He's been manning the paint as best as he could, which is what the big guy did, which is what made him more effective, which is why it's not a coincidence that these guys are on a 3-game winning streak. Add that to the fact that Russ looks like a blackjack dealer at the Bellagio, the way he's dealing. You want one? I got one for you. How about you? You want one? Don't worry about it. I didn't forget about you neither. Russ looks like the point guard that they need, the distributor that they need. Sure, he's going to make mistakes. Sure, he's going to turn the ball over. That comes with him. And he looks great on the second unit. But that's what they need. That's exactly what they need. I'm interested to see how this is going to unfold when James gets back in the lineup. You keep Russ on the second unit and let Russ continue to do what he's doing in terms of a distributor, playing off of Anthony Davis the way he's playing. And the Lakers have done a really good job defensively. It looks like they're getting back to what they were the last couple of games defensively. Now, I know people are going to say, well, look who they played. They just beat San Antonio. They just beat Detroit. Well, here's the thing. The thing is when you're playing in the NBA, those are the games that you have to win. If you're going to be a playoff team, if you're going to be a contender, those are the games that you have to win. We have to beat the bad teams. When we're playing against the better teams in the NBA, that's something completely different. But when we're playing against Detroit, right? When we're playing against Orlando, when we're playing against San Antonio, we have to beat those teams. We can't struggle with those guys. And the way that they don't struggle is the way Anthony Davis has been playing. Now, I've always felt like when he's healthy, I've always felt like when he's healthy, he's a top 10 player, no question about it. Arguably a top 5 player, simply because of what he brings on the defensive side of the basketball. He's one of the better offensive players in the game at his size, no question about that. The question is can he stay healthy? And if he could stay healthy, I think that we're looking at another all NBA performance. I think that we're looking at another all league defender again. I thought that the Lakers were the worst team in the game. With the collection of talent that they had, I thought that they were the worst team in the game. Looking at what they brought, I thought they were the worst team in the game. But their game looks like it's changed. They are playing better defense. They're playing more in the mid-range than they do on the long ball line, which is opening up the game going to the basket because there's more one-on-one opportunities going to the basket. So I like what I'm seeing from them. If I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm calling up Rob Pelinka. I'm calling up Rob Pelinka for one reason and one reason only, because I'm seeing if I can pry away Russell Westbrook. I think that I could get him up here in Minnesota because I think he's exactly what they need up there. He's the lead guard. He's the distributor. He's the playmaker that they don't have. He's the guy that they don't have that they need. I think that his ability, because I'm watching him set up Anthony Davis. I'm watching him set up Lonnie Walker. How much better he would be in Minnesota because they play at a fast pace. And that's Russ's game. So how much better would Anthony Edwards be? How much better would Cat be? How much better would Rudy be as the rim runner that he is with Russ dealing and Russ distributing to those guys? How much better would they be? And you don't have to worry much about defense because interior defense, Rudy's got that figured out, which would make you guys better defensively on the perimeter. If I'm Rob Pelinka, if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm calling up Rob Pelinka and I'm asking for Russell Westbrook because I think he's exactly what we need in order for us to be the top 5 seed in the West that I think that they could be. I think that their play is deficient at the lead guard spot more than anything. I don't think D'Angelo Russell gets guys involved enough. Him speeding up the game, I don't think that he gets guys easy layups and easy shots as much as he should. And I think Russell Westbrook would do that more. I absolutely believe that he would do that more. So, since we're on the subject of more, I've been paying more attention to the Sacramento Kings. And, I caught a lot of heat for this probably a year ago when there was a conversation about who was better between Ja Morant and De'Aaron Fox. And I said that De'Aaron Fox was better than him. And the reason why I said De'Aaron Fox was better than him is because I watched De'Aaron Fox. Ja's a better athlete. I will not dispute that. Ja's absolutely a better athlete. He's more dynamic. He's definitely more box office. But when I actually watch their games, I think that De'Aaron Fox is a better distributor. I think he's a better playmaker. I think he's just as good a one-on-one player. I think he's just as good in transition. Ja, like I said, Ja's a better athlete, but I think that De'Aaron Fox has a better stop and pop game. He's got a better mid-range game. And as a distributor, he looks like he understands the game a little bit more at this stage. Ja has surpassed him, and I think that's because he's on a better team, particularly defensively, because he's on a better team. Now, with watching Sacramento, this team looks like it's starting to gel, and it looks like it's, I know we're only a month into the season, but this team looks like it's starting to gel. I've always been a fan of Sabonis and his ability just to clean glass. He can score. He can score on anybody. He's been a 20-10 guy. I've seen that from him. But his ability to rebound and to help speed the game up, because that's how the Sacramento Kings play. I wasn't particularly fond of Davion Mitchell going to Sacramento because I feel like he's the kind of guard who he should have his own team. Like what Halliburton is doing in Indiana, I think that if you had Davion Mitchell in New Orleans, would he be leading the league in assists? I don't think so, but I think he would be much better than what he is in Sacramento because I think that he's a lead guard. And I think that he's a guy who he's not a rotation guard. He's a guard that you have to give him the basketball. I think he'd be perfect in New Orleans. I've always been a big fan of Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is a pro. and he's always been a pro. So watching this Sacramento team, Holmes is one of my favorite dirty work guys in the league. I like what they're doing in Sacramento. I haven't been a big Mike Brown fan for some time, but it looks like he's turning this group around. They don't really defend that well. I'd like to see them play better defense. They do not defend as well as I'd like to see them defend. But offensively, I still have a difficult time with Rob Pelinka just letting Malik Monk just walk out the front door. He's been a pleasant surprise to the Sacramento Kings. I'm flabbergasted that he just let him walk out the front door. That was nuts to me. I like what they're doing in Sacramento. I do. That's a team that I've been particularly watching over the last couple of days, and I'm gonna keep my eye on them. But this is what I've been paying attention to lately. The Brooklyn Nets. They look like they're, as you know, I'm out on Brooklyn. I've always been out on Brooklyn, and I'm gonna stay out on Brooklyn until they prove me otherwise. And it's because of one common denominator. That's Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. At some point, KD is going to break down during the season. At some point. Kyrie Irving has already been problematic, like he's been in the past. Plus, he's going to break down at some point during the season. Because that's the evidence. That's who he is. That's who he's been, and that's who he's always going to be. Until he proves otherwise. Now, from a basketball standpoint, I think he brings something that they didn't have. A second scorer, a second wing scorer. One of the best one-on-one players in the game. Somebody who can speed the game up. Claxton's been a lot better in the interior, and I'm actually surprised at how much better they've been defensively. Ben Simmons has been a pleasant surprise. He looks like he's starting to get back into playing basketball again. And I watch him. They don't cover him. And it's almost like a light bulb goes off where he has the basketball and he's not afraid to go to the rim. Like he wasn't afraid to go to the rim last night. In the past, he was afraid to go to the rim because he's got to go to the stripe. He doesn't want to do that, right? So he looks like he's like basketball. It's starting to come back to him more than anything. And I think that's a good sign because the way he was playing, we can't hide that. And what I mean when I say we can't hide that is in January, in February, we can mask that. When we get to the playoffs, it gets a little more difficult. It gets way more difficult when we're in the playoffs. And I think that they're using him correctly, where they put him in the dunker spot, right? And then they give him the basketball, where they make him the primary ball handler. So they're rotating and they're alternating each spot where he's either in the dunker spot, where they get him in the half court, or when they get him in transition, where they give him the basketball and let him go. I think those two things work. I definitely think those two things work. But Brooklyn moving forward, they have to show it to me because I'm out on Brooklyn. So, speaking of being out, you guys know where to find me. We are in the beginning stage of the NBA season. A month has gone by, and this is great. This is absolutely great. So, you guys know where to find me, and I'll be back soon. But until then, take it light, but take it.